Hello, Dustin. How are you?
I'm awesome, Angela. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thank you. So here's what we're doing. I was thinking it would be really cool. I'm gonna introduce you and all that in a minute, but just for people that are just listening, going, what are they doing? I want to get on here and talk to you about the work you're doing with the back nine and why you knew that you needed to come and talk to us at AC Inc. and what you're trying to get out of that. And I thought it would be cool because we just started an engagement together. And I thought that to hear what you're thinking now, and then we can hop back on in maybe 6 months from now or 3 months or something and do a little check-in and just kind of see where the progress is at, and then maybe a little bit after that. So that's just pre-framing what we're here to do. I'm gonna start with your intro because it's always impressive. I found this intro, so I'm gonna just for anybody that's watching, I'm confessing I'm actually gonna read it because it's so good. So, Dustin is the founding partner and CEO of the top 100 global franchise brand InXpress, which had 550 locations I'm assuming that when you exited, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. So,
Yep.
550 locations in 14 countries, $500 million in annual system sales. You moved on in 2023 and you've served on the board of the IFA for the past 7 years, which now I'm just saying it like I'm telling you. Which has allowed, okay, let me say this differently, which has allowed him to study the patterns, principles, and characteristics of the most successful franchise brands in the world. I'm going to pause and just say, I think that's so cool to have the lens and be able to go and look at franchise brands and go, what are they doing to be successful? What are the patterns and characteristics he's seeing? So, Dustin has been able to uncover some of the key areas that separate the 15% that get over 100 units from the 85% that never get there. So that is very cool. So Dustin, thank you again for joining me today.
Yeah, I love this. I'm so passionate about it. So thank you for letting me talk about it.
Awesome. Okay, so let's first start with a little bit about let's go because I gave that entry. We've got a little bit of your background already. Let's go right into the back nine. So you're not currently full-time employee anywhere. You're not currently a founder of a thing. You've been looking for something to do. Tell us a little bit about how you came across the back nine and why you wanted to get involved.
Yeah, listen, since we sold InXpress and after I left as the CEO, I've been retired. But there's been so much that's been given to me in the franchise journey that we were on with InXpress that I've always looked for ways to try to give back and help in any way that I can. And so, oddly enough, I live in St. George, Utah, which is not a big town. We're 90 minutes from Las Vegas. But I have a neighbor of mine that said to me, "Hey, Dustin, we've got this really cool brand that he's the CFO of." And he said, "We know the back nine business model concept really well. We know the golf industry, but what we don't know is franchising. And we would love to have you come over and just answer some questions for us about some franchise concepts that we're just not really sure about." So I accepted and went in and spent a couple hours with them just answering questions. And the more I learned about them, the more excited got. And the more they heard from me, the more they were like, "Hey, there's some things we're missing here that we need to learn more about." And so just through some of those discussions, we decided to formally work together, not full time, not I'm not, all in as far as an employee is concerned, but trying to help guide them on their really aggressive growth journey.
That's so awesome. Yeah, when you told me about it, and I could feel your excitement and your passion, which is always a key success factor for people when they're passionate and excited. But it just sounds so meant to be for you to be doing this. I love it for you. So let's talk about that aggressive growth plan. And I guess, what were you seeing when you first got there that you were like, okay, what do we need to focus on the most?
Yeah, so they're in this really interesting space where their franchisees have low overhead to actually run their business. So there's a really opportunity for franchisees unit economics to excel and for this franchise concept to really make a difference in franchisees' lives. And so that checked the box first and foremost. And the second thing I noticed was the founders, the executive team were driven by a higher purpose. There was an emotional reason they wanted their business to be successful. It wasn't just the dollars and cents or what it meant to their back pocket, but really what it meant to people's lives as they helped their franchisees be successful. And so as I climbed in after those two boxes were checked, because that's a starter for any franchisor. You've got to have that passion and the unit economics nailed down. And so then I started to just unpack, okay, what is it you're doing with and for your franchisees to ensure their success? And I was shocked and surprised and happy and excited to see that in their first 24 months, they'd signed 200 franchise agreements. They had 30 locations open with 90 opening in the next 3 to 6 months. And so this growth is extremely fast because people see how powerful a concept is. But what I noticed was while franchise development is hitting on all cylinders and they're doing a really good job in finding people, there was really just nothing on the back end that allowed them to ensure their franchisees had clear goals, had actual plans to achieve those goals, were able to hold those franchisees accountable to what the franchisee wanted to accomplish. It was light. And they recognized they needed something and were missing something, but they just didn't know what they were, what to do. And they were kind of making up as they went, which I think a lot of brands do. And so they're just putting things into practice in place that some were good, but some of it just weren't ever going to make that kind of impact they needed to have on their franchisees. And so it was an opportunity for me to go, hey, listen, guys, for you to really have the success the franchisees want and that you want, you've got to learn all of the successful principles and you've got to learn them fast and you have to execute at a very high level right away versus making the mistakes and trying to learn as you go. You've got to get this nailed down now. And that's when I was like, hey, we got to connect you with AC Inc. This is the pathway to get to where you want to go and do it right.
Awesome. And of course, that made us really happy that you instantly wanted to come and work with us. And what I'll tell you, what we've been finding at AC Inc. is currently with the people that we're working with, I would still argue that they're still more like the early adopters, people with an innovative mindset that understand that something is missing on the support side of things and are willing to um, invest in whatever it is that needs to happen to get the franchisees, out of to be able to move the needle to be able to hit their goals. And so it's always a treat for me when people like you that I just respect so much your credibility and your understanding of all of this when you come in and say like we need to work with you. So thank you again for that. But I can't emphasize enough your understanding. I follow you on LinkedIn. You're putting out content. I'm like, yes, yeah, keep talking. I love it. So if anybody's not following Dustin, you got to go follow Dustin because you can really see that with your experience at InXpress, probably especially where you really saw the difference between franchisees that were engaged and weren't, and what was happening with those.
Yeah, listen. I think, and what we found in Express as well is that there's a bit of a myth where after a franchisee signs a franchise agreement and they go through initial training, maybe onboarding, that then marketing becomes one of the most important functions in a franchise business, and then marketing is going to allow the franchisee to get those customers to walk in the door or to open doors for the franchisee. And to me, that's quite a myth because really a franchise owner needs to own their success. In order for them to do that, they need to know what to do. They need to be proactive in their efforts. Yes, marketing is a big piece of that puzzle, but it's just a piece. And so how do you help franchisees really execute and understand how to do it right? And not just the operations of the business, but really the growth of the business. And I think too many franchisors one, try to, make it up as they go and try to figure it out as they go, which I commend them for trying. But it's a long learning curve, and that's at the disservice of their franchisees. And I think there's some companies out there that maybe train, field coach and then send them back and say, good luck. And I just think that doesn't really allow a brand to help the franchisees in a way that really is needed. And that's why I think the AC Inc. fits the need that so many brands have, whether it's emerging or mature. Like these field coaches are the glue, the most important position to franchisor in order to allow a franchisee to excel and exceed their expectations and the goals that they've set for themselves. And so how can you make it up as you go, and how can you get trained and then get kicked back? You've got to have someone guiding you and holding you and giving you tools, and it has a bigger purview of what works. You guys have worked with lots of brands, and you know what works and what doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you're in the food or hospitality or logistics or fitness. It doesn't matter. The principles are the exact same. And again, you guys teach those. And so it makes sense to me not to spin the wheels, but to actually do it the right way the first time.
Oh man, you sound like you're on the AC Inc. team. Like you're saying exactly what we say. I barely even have to ask you the questions. I was going to ask you, well, first of all, you hit on, the tools, the resources. I'll throw in that, well, you mentioned like this is the most important job. We say it's the hardest job, the most undervalued job, and really the most important job, that the person that's supporting franchisees. And there's currently no framework. There's currently no coaching. There's been a training, like you said, but the ongoing and also what is being trained. Like we are training and coaching on how to have difficult conversations, not just with the average franchisee, but how do you deal with a disengaged? How do you deal with a top performer that like people are missing on? They're like leaving money on the table if they're just leaving their top performers. There's more to work with them on, right? So we go deep into that, but also the framework, right? The strategic growth coaching framework that we go in and we're implementing at the back nine to get this into place is part of what helps with that ongoing. So I love that you get it.
Yeah, and I think that again, I'm a big fan of the IFA. Obviously, I'm on the board of the IFA, and I think the IFA convention events are wonderful. But what tends to happen is the brand will go to the IFA, they'll sit at a round table, go to a session, they'll hear a really good idea, and they'll go back and try to implement that idea and say, hey, listen, right now our franchisees, we need to uncover their why.
Yeah.
And so they put all their energy and effort towards this one cool concept. And then they go to an event and it's like, actually, now we need to put some really good growth plans for a franchisee and teach them how to do that. So they
Yeah.
run to the other side of the guardrail and try to do that. And they kind of forget what they were doing
Yes.
before. It,
Yeah.
it just bounces back and forth. And
Yeah.
and you guys bring that all into a holistic view of let's do all of this in a really structured way at the same time so we're not missing things. And I think and not only do you guys have the tools and like the what to do, but I think you have the missing ingredients where it's also about managing emotions. And I
Yeah.
think it's so easy for people to teach, like, get on a phone call with the franchisee and talk about their goals for 60 minutes and uncover their gaps. But there's not the emotional psychology piece of it, which these are people that are doing a hard thing and owning a franchise. And if you're missing the psychology, it almost undercuts all of the tactical stuff that is taught, and you guys bring that all together, which is just awesome.
Thank you. One of the things we hear often is, oh, maybe we need to get a more higher level financial person to coach the franchisees because they'll have the expertise. And we're like, you can have all that expertise in the world, but if you can't get the franchisee to show up for a call and open up to you because they're or afraid of you or whatever, it's never going to work. So you're totally nailing it. And another thing you said is the owning it. I want last question for you that's coming to mind is, so we have this proactive approach, and you talked about, them owning their success, the goals. That's what we profess. Why do you think it's important to coach proactively versus this kind of more traditional common method out there where it's just kind of reactive and operational support?
I mean, again, franchising is hard. Franchisees are business owners. They have specific goals. They have driving factors in their life, in their family's life. And a lot of times they just don't know what they don't know. And they're trying to be in the business and they're in the weeds and they're getting fires they're trying to put out. And so they get so far into the forest, they can't really even see the trees. And so I think this proactive approach of, yes, let's deal and talk about challenges that you have. That's not something we're going to ignore, but let's make sure we get up in the crow's nest and look forward as well and ensure that the ship is going in the right direction. And let's get you out of some of the forest so you can see the trees and understand the pathway that gets you to the end of the road that you're looking to get to. And I think, again, doing that in an effective way is so important. I feel so strongly about this because I just don't think that any of these things are debatable. I think you read all the books, you look at the franchise brands that do excel, become mature and legendary brands versus the ones that fail or stop growing. And I think it's really, really clear the differences between them. And I think a major component of that is this whole field coaching piece of it. I think if you can get that right, you can unlock the steps to go where you want to go. And those that do get there, and those that don't get there. And so I don't think it's debatable. I don't think it's a matter of opinion. I think it's been proven. I think it's out there as research is researchable. I think it's so black and white that people now just need to be smart enough to make the right decision and execute in a way that actually makes the difference.
Oh, I love that. Where we figured out a lot of the things that we know now today at AC Inc. was going out and looking at what brands were doing. And I think, I run a weekly roundtable with franchisor leadership teams, and I would listen and hear what's working and what's not working. And the brands that were successful, and I go, what are they doing? So we took our own experience on the team and put that all into what we do. And you're so right. The brands, like there are brands out there that are doing better with it. And that's part of, I guess, where we took, things from is just seeing that it's like you say, it's non-negotiable. I was also going to say, just regarding when you were talking about the getting there, like the franchisee being able to see. I just got back from a keynote, amazing company. I'm going to give them a shout out, Interim Healthcare. They're doing some amazing things for their franchisees. They're rebuilding some things. Um, and I got to speak at their conference, and in my keynote, I talk about the five game changers that I learned when I was a franchise. Like, I realized that once I realized them, I started to get more in control of my business, started to make more money, could expand to more territories. And one of them is exactly about having a vision. And I talk about, imagine you live in Detroit, Michigan, and it's the dead of winter, and you're scraping ice off your car, and you're wearing this layers and the snow boots, and you're like, I'm sick of this. I gotta get out of here. And so you just get in your car, and you're like, I'm gonna go someplace warm. And you don't have a GPS, you don't have a plan. I would say you might end up somewhere warm, but you might end up somewhere worse, like in Canada. I can say that, right? It's cold. I'm from Canada. So, but what if you knew you were trying to go to Hollywood Beach, which was where this was, and you had a map and a GPS, and you said, this is where I want to go, and I'm going to have checkpoints. I'm going to make it fun along the way. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right track. How different would that be? And that's really what we're trying to help franchisees do. So you totally get it, obviously, but I just thought I'd throw in an analogy for folks.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a pilot by training, and so I totally get you. If you're off 1 degree, you'll end up in a totally different place. But I think you're off course most of the time in business and in life. And so if you're not having some course correction consistently, you're just never going to get there. I think people think it's a straight line. It's not. It's a wavy line. But the reason you can stay close to center is if you have things like you all teach at AC Inc. that get people close to center. And so as they go left, then we bring them back to the right and we get them to the Hollywood Beach or wherever their destination is. And that's just super critical.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I think I said it was my last question, but I this is the real last question. And maybe it's like a bonus question. But I'm thinking about how we're still educating franchisors that this is a solution, the solution to a problem, to educate and train and coach and properly take care of your field teams, bring in the right people to start, all of that, right? But we struggle sometimes to get it through people's heads because they can't see it, they don't understand. So I guess I'm gonna ask you, like, what's something that you would what would you say to those people that are like, I don't know if I shouldn't, like, you already just said it's not negotiable, but maybe it's something to add on to that. But if they're saying, I don't know, should I spend more money on Fran Dev, or should I just, oh, maybe I'll just hire an outside business coach for my franchisees, or they're thinking there's other solutions. This is the solution. What would you say to help them really believe you?
Yeah, I mean it's a hard question to answer because
Yeah, help me. I'm really just asking so I can use it in my marketing.
yeah, not to me it's like such a duh thing. Like, I mean, why would you make it up? Why would you not want something that you know could make the difference? I mean, listen, franchisors are in the business of creating successful franchisees so the franchisor can make royalty and provide, equity value to shareholders. I mean, that's it, as simplistic as you can put it. And so how do you help franchisees be profitable, be long-term sustainable, and grow so the franchisor can generate royalty dollars? Well, you have to be super effective and amazing at helping the franchisees get there. And so the answer to me isn't just selling more franchises. Yes, that's important to open more locations in order for more revenue to come in. But that's not what legendary brands do. That's not what allows someone to have the kind of success they want to have. It's just part of it. But if people open and can't really excel and you have the minimum revenue per location continuing to grow every single year, then you're just spinning wheels and you're just doing things that are a band-aid. You've got to get the root cause and you've got to be the most effective as possible. And again, I just built the way I was 23 and we started InXpress. So I'm built of just learning. I want to know the best. I want to hear the best. I don't want to have pride or ego stand in my way of saying, well, we already know how to do this. We don't really need that. I just want to figure it out and know, and I want to test it. I mean, if I'm a big brand and I'm thinking, well, I've already got this all figured out. Well, trial that. Bring in AC Inc. and have that be trialed and see what the difference is. And when they start to see the difference, then they'll go, okay, now we get it. We didn't know we were missing these pieces. And so again, for me, it's just about challenging our thinking in order to be as effective as possible so that we can get ultimately what the best brands get.
Yeah, that mindset that you have about challenging and all that, and being and having that, like, humility, but with nice blend of humility and confidence, is obviously why you're so successful. So thank you again for coming and hanging out with me. Let's do this again. I don't know, maybe in about 3 months, just check in. We'll see where things are at and we'll just watch the journey because I think that that's one of the things that people are not clear on, like how does this roll out? So maybe we'll get more clarity on what's actually been happening at that point. Sound good?
Yeah, especially I love it. Let's do it. The back nine is growing so fast, and so this is gonna be a really great thing to be able to show people, this hyper growth, what you guys have come in and have done, what the difference has been made in our franchisees' lives. Like, I think that this whole back nine experience is gonna be beautiful for us to reconnect and talk
Mm.
through again.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much, Justin. I'm going to say to you and to everyone, go be awesome.